We celebrate today in the church as the last Sunday of the liturgical year, Christ the King of universe. Usually when we think of a king, we think of a throne, a crown, a palace, great wealth, power, prestige, and of course, an army to protect and to defend him. But when we look at Jesus, what do we see? There is no throne, no crown, no palace, no army. We see him walking on the dusty roads of Palestine with a little group of disciples. Very often he is surrounded by the poor and the sick, by the sinners and the outcast. And at the end of his life, we see him not passing away in glory, in honor and praise, but passing away hanging on the cross. So what kind of king he is? What is the nature of Jesus' kingship? It seems that this title of king is not an appropriate title for him, because we can say death on a cross for a king should be seen as a defeat. But for Jesus, it was not. It was, in fact, a victory. The victory of love over hate. The victory of good over evil. My kingdom is not here, answered Jesus to Pilate in the Gospel of today. And what he said was right, because his kingdom is not in the sphere of political power, but as its roots, its foundation on the heart of all people of goodwill. Oscar Wilde, a British writer in the 19th century, wrote a beautiful story called The Happy Prince, a story that can help us to understand the influence of Jesus' kingship, but also make us understand our participation, our commitment in spreading his kingdom. That story goes like this. During his time on earth, this prince had lived a very sheltered, safe, and well-protected life. So when he passed away, the people erected a statue of him in the main square of the city. Because he was a rich man, the statue was covered all over with leaves of gold. More than that, he had two beautiful sapphires, a precious stone for his two eyes. Then he had a large red ruby, another precious stone, on the handle of his sword. One cold evening, a little swallow, a bird on his way south to spend the winter, landed at the base of the statue. As the bird was resting there, a few drops of water fell on him. He looked up and he saw that the prince was crying. "Why are you crying?" the swallow asked. "When I was alive, I saw no suffering," said the prince. "But now, from my perch up, I see that there is a lot of unhappiness in the world. I would like to help, but I cannot, because now my feet are fastened to the base of this statue. So I need a messenger. Would you be willing to be my messenger?" asked the prince. "But the winter is coming," answered the swallow. "Then I have to go fast to south. Please stay this night with me," asked the prince. "Very well, then. What I can do for you?" You see, in a room down there in the city, there is a mother tending a sick child. She has no money to pay for a doctor. "Please take the ruby from my sword and give it to her." The little swallow removed the precious stone with his beak and bore it away to the woman, who gratefully rejoiced. The doctor came and her child recovered. The little swallow came back and slept soundly. The next day, the prince asked him to stay another night. Then he asked him to take out one of his sapphire in his eyes and to give it to a little girl down in the square, because that day she did not succeed selling any matches. Then she was afraid to be beaten when she go home if she bring nothing. And once again, the little swallow did as he was asked. As he was running this daily short journey of mercy, the little swallow's own eyes were opened. He saw how much poverty and suffering there was in the city. Then he was glad to stay with the prince and to be his messenger. One by one, at the prince's urging, the little swallow stripped off the leaves of gold from the prince's statue and gave them away to the poor and to the needy in the city. Finally, he arrived back one evening, but by now the statue was bare, having been stripped of all its precious ornament. That night was very cold. The next morning, the little swallow was found dead at the base of the statue. The prince had given away all his riches, but he could not have done it without his faithful messenger, the little swallow. Brother and sister, we can ask now, what this moving story has to do with our celebration of Christ the King? For me, this is obvious. Christ, our King, is just like the statue of that prince, fastened in his statue base in each of our churches. And we are his faithful messenger, the little swallow of today. Christ our King gave himself totally while he lived on earth. And now, from his lofty perch in heaven, he surveyed the plight of God's children on earth and the plight of the whole creation. But his feet are fastened, his hands are tied, and his tongue is silent. He needs a messenger. He needs us. Are we willing to help him? Are we willing to become his messenger, his little swallows? Once again, Christ our King has no hands but our. He has no feet but our. He has no tongue but our. And it is his riches, not our, that we are called out to dispense. His love, his forgiveness, his mercy, his good news. What is requested from us here, what it's involved, is to help in simple things. For example, in giving a smile and a warm welcome to a stranger, in giving comforting words to the one in sorrow, in giving a special care and attention to the one who feels abandoned and alone, to fight for justice, truth, and peace where there is injustice, lies, and quarrel, to struggle for light where there is darkness, to struggle for good where there is evil. To do things such as these, one does not have to be either wealthy or talented. All one needs is a warm and a willing heart. And every one of us can do that, like even a little swallow was able to do it. Amen.